it became clearer day by day, week by week, as various restrictions were put upon the Jewish people, that this was going to be a serious problem for myself and my family, myself, and the period between when this happened, which was March 1938, and then when it really blew up on Kristallnacht in November 1938, was a learning curve for me as to how serious the situation was for our family.
Yeah. How did you cope emotionally with your Holocaust experience? What kept you going each day, and how did you put it behind you and move on?
Yes, I did that very soon after I came here and realized I'd lost my parents, which was clear after World War II, and decided that in their honor I've got to do something which would make them pleased for me. And I was very fortunate to very early meet a young lady who was probably the ideal girl made for me. And once we were married, she helped me to do that. And she knew my background, and together we had a good life together, working towards the success of my career.
Did your parents influence your choices after the war?
It was only the memory of my parents that influenced me, and the sadness that they weren't here to see that I have changed to become a more normal human being, because I was rather a sort of ill-behaved and child, and gave my parents a lot of problems, which I later, as a parent myself, realized how serious that was.
In relation to anti-Semitism, what was your community like, and did you have any non-Jewish friends?
Very few. In fact, I didn't have many friends. I was a loner as a child. I had a couple of Jewish friends in school, and then other school friends which were not Jewish, who dropped me like a hot brick as soon as Austria became part of Germany.
Did you encounter any Nazis, Germans, or other people that tried to help you during the Holocaust, or did anyone try to protect you or your family?
Not in our particular case. I didn't, but I knew that it was going on. Yes.
What did you feel when the ice rink, swimming pool, and cinemas were closed for the Jews, especially?
Well, that's what I meant when I used the word learning curve. That each time something like that happened, I questioned again how serious this was going to happen. My parents tried to give both my sister and I the impression that it is something that is transitional, that it will eventually go away, and it will go back to where we were. I know, of course, now that they had no such realistic thoughts, but my father was a particularly soft individual. He did not want anything to harm his little children, in particular this little boy of his who was a bit of a problem. My sister was not. My sister was much more adult, and she could take care of herself. My mother was the disciplinarian in the house, and she tried to do the same thing, but by rewards and punishments.
How do you feel about Germany and German people today? Do you hold any grudges, or have you moved on?
Good heavens, no. The whole object of my life, of the work that I do now in this part of my life, of going around 60 or so schools a year and to talk about my experiences, is to get over to the younger generation that we have not learned very much from the Holocaust, because the 20th century was full of further examples of hatred of one people against another, starting off with Cambodia soon after the war. That was one of the earliest ones, and going right through Rwanda and Bosnia and so on, and throughout Europe and in the world. People continued to go and kill people because they're different to they are themselves. And as far as I was concerned, I never intended to carry my upset into the future generations at all, but it was really brought home to me when I had the opportunity to return in 2005 to Vienna, and for the first time speak actually in a Viennese school. Indeed, the school that expelled me. When I did that, I had it really sort of finalized that I was looking at children of the age of 15 to 16 who had nothing whatsoever to do with the war. Their parents had nothing whatsoever to do with the war. Their grandparents would have to be older than me to have had anything to do with the war crimes. So we were talking about 4 generations down the road. And my object now is to embrace all peoples. And I have a saying, I don't even worry about racism. That is not a word I like. I worry about, I believe there's a human race, full stop. And the human race has got to live on this planet together in peace and harmony. And hopefully that can be achieved in the long term.
If you could go back and change anything that happened to you during the Holocaust, what would it be?
Well, that's a difficult question. I would like it never to have happened. So consequently, the whole concept of the Nazi regime with its ideology of racism and discrimination against people, not only the Jewish people, homosexuals, gypsies, disabled people, etc., is a long list, that this was never anybody's idea. And it amazes me, really, the amount of following that party managed to achieve. But the circumstances after World War I were ripe for such hatred to take roots, because it was useful to have something as a scapegoat, or some things as a scapegoat, and blame all these people for the ills that occurred in the world prior to that.
Well, during the years dealing with the memories, does it become easier, or is there anything that you regret doing during the Holocaust?
No, I don't regret doing anything. I didn't do very much during the Holocaust. I just followed the circumstances as they developed. My regret in life is more or less connected with what I said earlier, is that my parents went to their death, not realizing that their son could actually become a normal human being, because I wasn't in that time. I was, as I say, an extremely difficult child.
Yeah. How do you think education about the Holocaust could be improved, and how do you think the event should be most accurately told?
Well, I'm very grateful that the British educational system has the Holocaust as a compulsory part of history. It is remarkable most of the schools, the vast majority, I can think of hardly any significant exception where the effect on the students of my presentation has not been something that they will remember for some time, and also the diligence and the enthusiasm with which the teachers embrace it. Yes, I do notice this, and I'm very pleased that that happens.